Come on. Come say hi. Hey, hey, hey!
He hates it. Doesn't want to say hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Alright. Let me see what happened at the start of last chapter is the question.
Fuck.
Right. Right. Okay. So they're underground in this old Wuyang temple. They see another mural, and it's um, the Wuyang prince, and he built a stairway to heaven to save everyone from
Right,
the
right.
volcano. And then they go, and then Yin Yu is missing for some fucking reason,
Stop.
and then they go and look for him and look for water, and they hear these rats, and these rats are talking to Shilian,
Right.
and they're like talking about how they're burning alive and stuff, and then at the end he realizes he wouldn't be able to understand the rats because they'd be speaking in the Wuyang tongue. Hi, Wicker.
Say hi. Wave.
You torment him.
Look. Look.
You just torment him
Look.
like nonstop.
He loves me. He loves me.
Venus would fucking rip my eyeballs out if I tried to do that to her.
True.
Alright.
Scared.
So that ends with that wasn't right. The corpse eating rats could only repeat the ravings of the Wuyang people before their deaths, which naturally would be in the Wuyang tongue. So why could he understand them? Chapter 87 Jealous Ghost King. 3 questions on where the friendship lies. Hua Cheng had used his own abilities of inference and capacity for learning to pick up on the Wuyang tongue. He could decipher the meaning of words, but since there wasn't anyone alive who could read the words aloud to him, he couldn't match written words with sounds. That meant he couldn't understand the murmurings of the corpse-eating rats. But Shilian, who had never visited Mount Tonglu before, understood. What could this mean? Hua Cheng could tell that Shilian was thinking what Shilian was thinking with a single glance, and he was quick to reassure him. Guga, don't panic yet. Just repeat those words to you. I'll repeat those words to you. Give them a listen. All right, Shilian said. Hua Cheng's memory was exceptional, and he clearly and precisely repeated the words as soon as they left the area where the corpse-eating rats had gathered. Shilian stared intently at his lips as he pronounced a series of moderately paced and somewhat bizarre-sounding phrases. The words had a strange, ancient rhythm to them. Hearing them spoken with such steady control through Hua Cheng's lips made the notes deep, beautiful, and pleasing to the ears. After concentrating on the words for a moment, Shilian said, I don't understand them. Now this was very strange. He could understand the words the corpse-eating rats had spewed, but he couldn't parse them when Hua Cheng repeated them exactly. Still, that moment of comprehension couldn't have been a figment of his imagination. When you heard those voices, you easily understood what they were saying, right? Hua Cheng asked. Shilian nodded. Right. There was never a translation process in my brain. He hadn't even realized it was a different language. I get it, Hua Cheng said. What do you get? Shilian asked. What you understood wasn't the Wuyang tongue, but the emotions of those who died. Shilian understood, but at the same time he didn't. Meaning that a long time ago someone heard those same these same dying voices. They understood them and remembered them, and then somehow transplanted this memory into you and infected you with their feelings. Hua Cheng explained further. They knew the Wuyong tongue and had already completed the comprehension step, which is why you don't need to know the language to understand. Those voices have always been buried deep within your mind, and you were brought directly into their emotions the moment you heard them. Shilian thought this explanation sounded fairly plausible. I see, but the question is, who could pass such memories and emotions to me? And when did they do this? After a pause, he murmured, The state preceptor? We can't be sure, Hua Cheng replied. Gaga, you're already assuming your master is from Wuyong. But if that's the case, shouldn't they have been communicating in the Wuyong tongue when we were in the stomach of the mountain spirit? Why weren't they? That wasn't hard to explain. Shilian said, The kingdom of Wuyong was destroyed 2,000 years ago. They would need to use modern language to survive in the world for the past 2 millennia. It's only natural for them to use the language they're more fluent in now. Hua Cheng gripped his shoulders, his tone growing harsher. Gaga, stop letting yourself think this way. Shilian finally turned to face him. Fine. Sanlang, what does it usually take to transplant memories and emotions to someone? There are 2 conditions that must be met. First, you must trust this person absolutely and without reservations. When necessary, you are willing to be led by them, Hua Cheng answered. After a brief moment of contemplation, Shilian had picked the candidates in his mind. Second, it is someone you are powerless to retaliate against. The one implanting the memories must hold absolute power over you, and you must fear them deeply, Hua Cheng said. Gaga, think carefully. Over the years, who has matched these requirements? Shilian contemplated for a while, and after some hesitation, answered slowly, I suppose there are 3 in total. Very good. Who are the 3? Hua Cheng asked. The first one is the state preceptor of Shenle, Shilian said. While he loved his parents deeply and never guarded against them, he knew deep down that he and his father walked different paths. Thus, he couldn't say he was willing to be led by his father. However, the state preceptor guided him at the beginning of his education and taught him everything. He met both conditions. This was expected, so Hua Cheng prompted. And the second one? Junwu, Shilian answered. He held immense respect for Junwu and was constantly in awe of him. No need to say more on the subject. He also met both conditions. Hua Cheng didn't look too impressed, but he didn't comment. And the last one? The third one, Shilian said, doesn't match the first condition, but the second. Hua Cheng understood. White no-face, he said darkly. Shilian closed his eyes and nodded, a hand covering his brow. I won't lie to you. I never revealed this to anyone, not even Feng Xin and Mu Qing. I never said anything dispiriting to them back then, but actually, deep down, he profoundly feared that creature. There was a period of time when even hearing the name would set him trembling non-stop. But Shilian had never dared to allow anyone to notice, because he was the only hope they had for defeating White No-Face. If even he was scared, wouldn't everyone else fall deeper into despair? If that happened, everything would collapse. Hold on. Venus has to go. Of course, it was all much better now. Hua Cheng gripped his shoulders even harder. It's all right. There's nothing shameful about being afraid of something. Shilian gave a small, flickering smile. I'm just not brave enough, that's all. You don't need to be so hard on yourself, Hua Cheng comforted. Without fear, there is no courage. Shilian was slightly taken aback. Hua Cheng continued without pause. Is it only those 3? Shilian nodded. This meant that someone among those 3 had planted within him the Wuyong people's memories and emotions at the moment of volcanic cataclysm. Hua Cheng mused on it, furrowing his brows. Shilian was silent for a while before he suddenly spoke up. That's not everyone. Hua Cheng turned his head to look at him. What? Shilian drew a small breath. It's actually not just those three. There's a fourth person who fulfills the first condition. But I'm certain he has nothing to do with the memories and emotions of the dead. Hearing this, Hua Cheng turned towards him completely. Oh, how do you know? Have your Highness and this person shared many years of deep friendship? Not so many years, Shilian thought, but a deep friendship. He believed this person counted, but he was too embarrassed to say it out loud, so he replied ambiguously. In any case, he might be the one I trust the most, even more than my master and Junwu. How does that count? Hua Cheng asked. Shilian lightly cleared his throat. It's embarrassing to say, he said shyly, because if I were to make a grave mistake or find myself in trouble after upsetting a huge hornet's nest, he's the first one I'd think to call. And my trust for him isn't quite the same as what I have for my master and the Emperor. Before he could finish, he noticed Hua Cheng's odd expression. He trailed off. Sun Lang? Only then did Hua Cheng come around. He quirked an eyebrow. Oh, it's nothing. I was thinking of something else. Your Highness really trusts this person so much. He usually raises his brows when he was relaxed or teasing, but it didn't seem very natural right now. Shilian nodded. Is there a problem? Hua Cheng bowed his head slightly and adjusted his silver van braces. Nothing major, he said, sounding nonchalant. But, in my personal opinion, it'd be best if Gaga didn't trust others so easily. Hearing him say that, Shilian wasn't sure whether Hua Cheng had figured out who he was talking about. But he didn't dare reveal any more, so he only gave a soft, oh. Although he paused, in the end, he still couldn't resist asking, Sun Lang isn't going to ask who this person is? What? Hua Cheng asked. Since Gaga said he trusts this person, and has determined that he has nothing to do with this affair, there's no need to ask. Shilian rubbed his forehead. Hua Cheng quickly added, but if Gaga wants to tell, Sun Lang is happy to listen. Although his words sounded gracious, it'd be awkward if Shilian told him now. It would be like he was begging Hua Cheng to ask who he trusted most. Shilian couldn't tell whether Hua Cheng was just being polite or if he really didn't care. Coincidentally, the wraith butterflies that engaged in bloody carnage against the corpse-eating rats had returned. After going through that strenuous battle, the silver butterflies were flying a little low, like they were drooping with fatigue. Shilian quickly went up to greet them, reaching out to catch a particularly tiny butterfly. Thanks for your hard work, he said. Now he'd done it. The butterflies paused in the air, and the next second it was like they had smelled a delicious pastry. They all charged at him like mad. Shilian still had the little silver butterfly cupped in his hand and was almost struck dumb. Hua Cheng gave a calm, deliberate cough. The butterflies paused again, then backed off politely and calmly flew towards Hua Cheng to land on the silver van braces on his arms, becoming one with the engraved butterfly patterns. The two continued to search for Yin Yu. After they'd been walking for a while, Hua Cheng suddenly spoke up. It's not Feng Xin, is it? Shilian's mind had already moved on to something else, and when he heard him, he blinked.
No way.
Huh? What? The person Gaga spoke of, Hua Cheng said. Shilian instantly waved. Of course not. Hua Cheng's brows twitched. It's not Mu Ching, is it? A drop of sweat rolled down Shilian's forehead, and his hand waved faster. That's even more impossible. That's even more impossible. But why is Sun Lang asking about this again? Hua Cheng smiled. I thought about it, and I think that this fourth person is the most suspicious. So to prevent any surprises, will Gaga please tell me, who is this person you trust the most, and with whom you've shared many years of deep friendship? Shilian stared at the smile on his face. He had a gut feeling that this smile was very fake. But just as he inhaled deeply, preparing to speak, the faint silver light from the scout butterflies disappeared. Darkness fell all around, and Hua Cheng swiftly seized Shilian's hand and dodged to the side of the street. Shilian could tell that something was wrong. Sun Lang, is something coming? He asked in a whisper. Even though darkness had unexpectedly had come unexpectedly, and nothing could be seen. He followed Hua Cheng's steps closely and easily hopped into a house to hide. Hua Cheng's voice sounded next to his ear. "It's here." Within the darkness, they heard a very peculiar sound. Thump, 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 thump. It was a strange dragging noise, and although it was still far away, each drag sounded extremely heavy. And each one also sounded much closer than the one before. The speed of its approach was astounding. Julien thought this sound was oddly familiar, and that he had definitely heard it somewhere before. When it sounded close by, he looked outside to see. Sure enough, there was a woman dressed in wedding robes on the main street of the underground city. Although she wore wedding robes, the robes themselves were in tatters. It was a chilling, haunting sight. Her face was beautiful, yet held no sign of life. The glowing green ghost fire atop her head made her blanched complexion shine green. In her arms, she cradled a small child, whose face was also a ghastly pale shade, though he appeared more alive than her. He was obviously a living human. "Pumping into old friends again," Hua Cheng said. It was the ghost bride, Xuanji, and Geze. That's the end of that chapter. Do you want to do another?
Sure.
Chapter 88, Ghostfire Atop, the Unlocking Incantation. They'd come to Mount Tonglu as well. Geze is here. Does that mean Qirong has come too? Shilian wondered. There's no doubt he has. Look at that ball of green light on top of her head, Hua Cheng said. Geze seemed a little afraid of Xuanji, staying very still while she carried him. But he did squirm subtly a few times. Perhaps her cold body was uncomfortable. Don't move, Xuanji admonished. Beneath the glow of that ball of green ghost fire, the muscles of her face appeared even more twisted the moment she opened her mouth. Ghost fire was one of the telltale signs of a ghost, but wearing it on top of one's head was in exceedingly poor taste. Any lady ghost who valued her own image would refuse to wear such a garish thing over her head. Shilian suspected that Qirong must have forced her to wear it. The green flames and the red wedding robes formed a shocking contrast that assaulted the eyes. It was a more depressing sight than a sect leader forcing his disciples to wear extremely ugly uniforms. Zhizhi, my tummy doesn't feel good after drinking that water, Geze pleaded, his eyes brimming with tears. Water? Shilian broke out in a cold sweat. Hordes of corpse-eating rats were swimming through the water here. While it might not be toxic, children had weaker constitutions and might suffer diarrhea after drinking it. Xuanji was obviously the type who didn't like children, and she had very little patience for him. Hang on for a bit. We'll be back soon. Their backs disappeared, and they became one with the darkness ahead. No need to say another word. Shilian and Hua Cheng quietly trailed in their footsteps. After following Xuanji around a few turns, they came upon another large street, and at the end of that street was a particularly lavish house. There were voices coming from within. It was surely their destination. Under the cover of shadow, Shilian and Hua Cheng dashed ahead and hopped onto the roof of the house. They peered inside through the cracks. Sure enough, Qirong was sloppily lounging in the center of the mansion's main hall. He had hauled in dozens of stone statues and positioned them so their heads were facing him. Because the stone people were all sprawled on the ground, they looked like they were in complete submission to him. He was basking in this fake prostration while munching on a bloody arm. He looked quite pleased with himself. In the corner of the room sat several farmers, and there was someone else among them with his head bowed low, and no presence to speak of. It was Yi Niu. As they suspected, he had been captured by Qirong. No one was bound by rope, but there were balls of bright green ghost fire hovering over every captive's head. Upon closer inspection, these ghost fires were different from the ornamental one on top of Xuanji's head. These had grown faces with all 5 senses. Their narrowed eyes stared downwards, and their expressions were treacherous and wicked. All were steadfastly watchful of the person below them. Those balls of fire must be doing something, Shilian whispered. It's Qirong's ghost fire lock, Hua Cheng replied. Once that fire sets its sights on you, if you dare try to escape, it will shriek at the top of its lungs. Then the hostage will be burned to death in an instant when the spell is activated. Qirong was munching on the severed arm with relish when Xuanji's voice rang from outside. My lord, I've returned. He immediately threw the arm away and wiped his blood-covered mouth. Shilian was somewhat amazed. What was that gesture? Did he not want someone to see? Had the day come when Chi Rong knew shame? Could he actually be embarrassed by someone witnessing the way he ate? Before Xuanji entered, she set Geza down. Geza scurried in with a ta-ta-ta and rushed straight to Chi Rong's side. But when he saw him, he pointed an accusing finger and shouted, "Dad is secretly eating bad things again!" "I'm not!" Chi Rong retaliated. "I smell it! Your breath stinks when you eat bad stuff," Geza accused. Chi Rong raised his hand and huffed a couple breaths into his palm, and his expression showed that he could smell the blood reeking from his own mouth. Without any way to deny it, he grew annoyed. "God damn it! Xuanji! Why did you bring him back so suddenly? Didn't I say to walk him around a bit longer while I ate?" Xuanji walked in, visibly peeved. "He was making a fuss about a tummy ache after he drank water, so I brought him back early," she explained. "My lord, please don't make me take care of children anymore. I don't know how to deal with him." Chi Rong glared. "What? Aren't you a woman ghost? How can a woman not like taking care of children? You're disqualified."
Chi Rong, no!
"But it's not even my own child," Xuanji countered. Geza tugged at the hem of Chi Rong's sleeve. "Dad, don't eat those things anymore. They're not good for you." Chi Rong was growing annoyed by his nagging and scolded him. "Go outside. Go. Don't hang around here to annoy people. What is this? Kids sticking their noses in grown-ups' business? Go out and play by yourself." With that, Geza could only drag his feet and go outside to play in the mud by himself, glancing at the group in the corner as he left. Only when he was gone did Xuanji speak up. "My lord, I really don't understand. Why must you bring him along if you think he's annoying? He's been hungry and thirsty and weepy and sickly the entire way. If we hadn't bumped into that mountain spirit and managed to ride it here, we would surely be lagging behind." Chi Rong laughed wryly. "My cheap son is determined to call me Dad, so just let him." "Pfft, what rubbish. It's because I'm gonna eat that dumb little pecker, of course. A kid's meat is so tender. Even without seasoning, it'll be flavorful enough." "Then why hasn't my lord eaten him yet?" Xuanji pressed. Greedy green light flashed in Chi Rong's eyes. "You don't understand anything. I'll kill him after he's fattened up. I'm saving the best for last. Besides, we still have so many rations left. There's no rush." With the subject of rations raised, Xuanji peered at Yin Yu. "I think this new one you captured is suspicious. Very, very suspicious. My lord, did you figure out where he came from?" Knowing how much Chi Rong despised Hua Cheng, he would have eaten Yin Yu immediately if he knew his new captive was Hua Cheng's subordinate. "Yeah, I got it out of him. This bastard came with the Rainmaster to help," Chi Rong replied. A weak sense of presence and an unremarkable personality were sometimes a good thing. People wouldn't immediately link someone like Yin Yu to someone like Crimson Rain-Sought Flower. It seemed Yin Yu had successfully deceived Chi Rong about his identity, and Shilian sighed a breath of relief. Xuanji's face, however, dropped. "Yushi Huang has already chased us here?" "Nah," Chi Rong said. "This bastard found this underground city by accident, same as us. The Rainmaster hasn't discovered us yet. God fucking damn it!" he suddenly cursed. "Why is the Rainmaster so hard to deal with? Chasing us and smacking us around all the way here, forcing us to hide down here. We only nabbed a couple of those hicks to eat, so why so stingy? These heavenly officials, I just knew none of them were any good. So narrow-minded and miserly." Chi Rong was always so self-righteous. Those farmers had been minding their own business when he snatched them all up with his wretched hands. And he had the gall to scorn their master for not being generous enough to provide him with a few more. His speech made Shilian's fists itch. "Why don't we just release these people?" Xuanji said. Chi Rong, however, seemed to think the very idea embarrassing. He glared. "No! I already ate half of them, so it won't matter even if I release the rest. The feud has begun. The only way to prevent it would be if I didn't snatch any farmers at the start. Might as well eat them all now. But if anyone corners me, this ancestor will burn them all to the ground. We can all be miserable together." I didn't think it would go this way. Yushi Huang used to be so easy to bully. This never would have happened in the past. If we kidnapped people from Yushi country, I thought it would be swept under the rug and the insult swallowed. That's the only reason I dared to make such a move. Who knew it would invite this much trouble and such relentless pursuit? It seemed that Xuanji knew the Rainmaster personally, but her opinion of the official was quite low. They likely knew each other when they were both still mortal. Thinking back on the legends, Shilian whispered, "Was Xuanji once a general of the kingdom of Yushi?" "Gege guessed right," Hua Cheng said. "That's exactly it." Shilian was dubious. "But that's not right. Lord Rainmaster is a descendant of Yushi royalty, quite high in status. Xuanji was only a general, a subject. How can she look down on her monarch like that?" She went as far as saying easily bullied. Just then, Chi-Rong started ranting. "Who cares about some Rainmaster Dogmaster? Just wait till this Ghost King cultivates to supreme status in the kiln. I'll be reborn so powerful that I'll rock the world, and everyone, from heavens above to earth below, will be forced to bow before me, to kneel and eat the mud at my feet. Then I'll tear down Ghost City, sink Blackwater Island, and even Junwu will have to be careful where he treads." Listening to him rattle off so much bullshit, happily imagining his future glory. Other than a urge to laugh, Shilian felt nothing. Hua Cheng, on the other hand, didn't even bother with laughter. Chi-Rong then assured Xuanji, "When the time comes, I'll chop off Pei Ming's dick for you, and play with, and make him your slave." Xuanji clenched her fists at the mention of that name, a trace of life flashing on her deathly pale face. "No need. As long as my lord promises to give him to me and allows me to handle him myself, Xuanji will be infinitely grateful." When the matter didn't concern Pei Ming, Xuanji looked like a fairly normal ghost woman. But the moment General Pei was mentioned, Shilian could see a shadow of that mad, obsessed spectre from Mount Yuzhun. She had actually placed such absurd hopes on Chi-Rong, a choice that could only be described as blinded by love. Shilian looked up. "Sunlang, Yin Yu and those farmers are in Chi-Rong's clutches. What should we do?" They could of course just saunter directly inside and beat Chi-Rong and Xuanji to a pulp, but the farmers and Yin Yu were hostages. Chi-Rong was a fiend, and they had more to lose. He could immolate a hostage with every punch they threw. Just as he said, he could burn it all to the ground if they cornered him. Hua Cheng wasn't the least bit anxious. "There's an unlocking incantation for Chi-Rong's ghost firelocks. First, let's think of a way to wheedle it out of him." "Who will do that, and how? We certainly can't," Shilian said. As soon as he posed the question, their eyes simultaneously fell on Geze, who was playing with mud outside the mansion. After a momentary pause, Shilian said, "That won't do. It's too dangerous. Chi-Rong is already thinking about eating Geze. What if he suspects the boy is trying to trick him?" "Whether that brain of his can even detect trickery aside," Hua Cheng said. "If he tries to do anything to the child, we'll just rescue him. Maybe Gege should be more worried about whether the child has been permanently damaged by this extended period of proximity to Chi-Rong, and whether his mental state is still normal." "Judging by Geze's reaction earlier, he probably isn't that bad off," Shilian said. "Let's give it a try, then." Hua Cheng opened his palm flat and released a particularly tiny silver butterfly. It languidly fluttered down. Chi-Rong and Xuanji were still talking inside the house, and Geze was outside drawing in the mud, a picture of a big person holding hands with a smaller person. Suddenly he spotted a silver butterfly that was glowing slightly. He looked up at once, his eyes wide, and was just about to exclaim, "Wow!" when a whisper came from the creature. "Geze, don't speak. The moment you speak, I'll disappear. It's me. Do you remember me?" If Geze had yelled anyway, Hua Cheng would have had the silver butterfly confound his mind, but Geze covered his own mouth obediently. "I remember scrap-collecting Gege's voice," he whispered back. "Ha! What a good memory you have," Shilian laughed awkwardly. "Yes, that's right. That's me, the scrap-collecting guy. Sneak over to the side of the house for a moment, and don't let your dad see." Geze nodded. He rose to his feet and was about to sneak away, but Chi-Rong immediately noticed. "Hey! Don't run around randomly, you hear me?" he yelled from inside. Run off around here, and the big rats will eat ya. Get back here. The silver butterfly flew off at once and hid. Guzza's eyes widened. I'm going to pee, he answered. Chiron clicked his tongue. Kids are so full of shit and piss. And then he stopped caring. Guzza scampered to the side and whispered again, Scrap Gugga, Scrap Gugga. Just Dao Zhang is fine, Shulian said from the roof. Scrap Gugga sounds a little weird. Guzza, those people your dad kidnapped are very pitiful. They're servants from someone else's household, and their master will keep chasing after your dad to beat him up. Will you help us set them free? I know, Guzza said. They're from the house of the god, riding on the big black ox. He scratched his head. I want to let them go too, but my dad is sick. He said he has to eat human flesh to get better, and that eating human flesh is normal. I'm still little, and he'll teach me how to eat it when I'm bigger, but I don't think it's a very good idea. It's more than just not a good idea, Shulian thought. This is a close call. Having remained by Chirong's side for so long, Guzza's morals were beginning to go astray. If he was dragged down the wrong path for much longer, he might start believing that this kind of life is normal, and think of nothing of eating human flesh. It's definitely not a good idea, Shulian said quickly. Eating human flesh will make you very sick. The ghosts of any people you eat will haunt you and your dad. Your dad isn't sick, he's just a glutton who refuses to give up something he likes. You have to figure out a way to stop him from ever eating that stuff again. Otherwise, you won't have a dad anymore. Then what should I do? Guzza asked, clearly alarmed. Huacheng turned to Shulian. Gugga, let me. He said a few words to the silver butterfly, and Guzza listened to the other end, trying hard to remember everything. Once he was done, Huacheng looked up again. Let's lure Xuanji out of the way first, he told Shulian. Inside the house, Xuanji said, I still think this one is suspicious. He says he's a servant of Yu Shi Huang, but he's covered in ghost chi. I think he's lying. I'll question him some more. After seeing Guzza scurry away, Chirong took this opportunity to turn his back to the door and start munching on the arm again. Sure, he replied vaguely. Aside from the fact that Xuanji went mad whenever she ran into Pei Ming, she was otherwise more detail-oriented and cautious than Chirong. She was a woman, after all. Besides, Guzza was a little scared of her, so the chance of him fumbling was higher with her around. Shulian nodded. How do we lure her away? The two exchanged a look and said in unison, General Pei. Shulian pressed his hands together in a prayer. There's no other way. We'll need to temporarily sacrifice you, General Pei. Everyone will thank you once we're saved. Huacheng laughed out loud. They should thank Gugga instead. Another silver butterfly materialized from the engravings on Huacheng's silver van braces and flew next to Shulian's ear. A man's voice came floating through it. It was Pei Ming's voice. Huacheng had apparently left a few silver butterflies behind before they separated, and the voices on the other side were being broadcast to them. Shulian listened closely for a bit, then he whispered, Let's cut this up a little and use these lines. Like editing a fucking video to play. Xuanji's back was facing the window. She stared at Yin like a hawk as she interrogated him. In Yushi country, I'm responsible for attending to hungry ghosts who have nowhere to turn, Yin answered, acting like an honest and dutiful soul. When they wander to our doorstep, I give them a handful of rice and send them on their way, which is why I have ghost chi on me. The other hostages were the real farmers of Yushi country. While there were certainly those who gave such relief to wandering ghosts, he was definitely not one of them. They knew he was making things up, but no one made a sound. Chirong chortled. Ho ho! I'm a hungry ghost too. Why not give me some relief? I'm being hunted down over just a few farmers eaten. What's up with your boss? That cheapskate, pretending to be so generous. Xuanji, on the other hand, treated the comment with open disdain. There are so many hungry ghosts in the world. How can you bring relief to them all? It's nothing but an act. Just then, a silver butterfly, with its light concealed, flew soundlessly behind her. It flashed its light once before it hid. All the hostages saw, but they remained composed, with unspoken understanding. Everyone pretended they didn't see anything. Xuanji was about to continue the interrogation, when she seemed to hear the voice of a man. If that's the case, these first. Do you any more? Give here. If that's the case, roast these rats first. Do you have any more snakes? Give them here. When Shilian had first heard Pei Ming say it, he was filled with both shock and pity. Some corpse-eating rats must have approached them, and Pei Ming must have thought they were normal rats, and killed them to serve as a meal for Pei Shu. Would eating such creatures cause problems? They had to hurry back soon. However, the effect was fascinating after Hua Cheng muted some parts from the line. Now it sounded like the words meant something, but their meaning couldn't be understood. When Xuanji heard it, she shuddered violently and whipped her head around. But the silver butterfly was cunningly agile. It emitted no light, and it had long since fluttered to the side and hidden by the time she had turned around. Uncertain, Xuanji turned back to question the hostages. "Did any of you hear something just now? Did you see anything?" Yin Yu took the lead and shook his head, and the rest of the hostages did the same, all appearing honest and timid. Qirong looked over with his mouth covered in blood. "What did you hear?" Xuanji was slightly confused. "I thought I heard Pei Ming's voice." "Huh? You're probably delusional," Qirong said. "I haven't heard anything." The silver butterfly pressed close to Xuanji, so no one else could hear the voices it transmitted. Xuanji was doubtful. "Really? But I keep feeling that maybe he's close by." She was bewildered for a moment before she heaved a sigh. "Perhaps this is what they call lover's intuition. My lord, why don't I go out and take another look around?" Shilian hadn't expected it to go this smoothly. He silently clenched his fists and looked up to flash Hua Cheng a smile. Hua Cheng smiled back. However, Qirong unexpectedly rained on his parade. "Pfft! Didn't you go once already? Intuition, my ass. It's delusion, for sure. You do nothing but think of him 800 times a day. Of course you're delusional." It appeared Xuanji was slightly convinced by his assurance. Though still unsure, she seemed to relent on her plan to leave. Shilian wasn't discouraged by the failure of this attempt, though, because he had more lines where that came from. Xuanji was just about to continue her interrogation when she heard Pei Ming's voice once more. "You silly little thing, come here, I'll teach you." A moment later, a young girl's voice could be heard. "Please, General Pei, I've done it once. I'm experienced now. Let me do it." That was, of course, Pei Ming instructing Banyue how to roast corpse-eating rats for little Pei to eat. But it sounded like something completely different to Xuanji's ears. His disdainful dismay became tender resignation, and her gloomy rejection became bashful timidity. Xuanji screeched, and a red sheen crawled over her eyes. The ghost fire on top of her head erupted, just like the jealous flames blazing in her heart. "It's him! It's him for sure! He must be here! I sensed it! My heart sensed him!" She pulled at her own hair and screamed. "Pei Ming! You're always like this! Which woman is it this time? I'm going to kill you!" She continued to shriek as she leapt outside, dragging her 2 broken legs. Qirong broke into curses. Hey! Xuanji, what the fuck? How can you run that fast on those fucked up legs? Is that man-whore really worth it?" Shilian watched as Xuanji's stumbling, wobbling back disappeared. Feeling somewhat mournful, Hua Cheng probably thought he was concerned for the safety of those back at the temple. "No need to worry. The Wraith Butterfly will lead her to the opposite direction. Even if she finds them, Royer is acting as a shield, and she won't be able to enter the protection circle. Let's end our business here quickly." Now that Xuanji was gone, it was time for Geze to enter the scene. He rose to his feet and wiped his muddy hands on his butt. Shilian was still a little worried. "Will it really be all right?" "Gege, trust me," Hua Cheng assured quietly. "If this doesn't work, we'll find another way. There are plenty of other options. If necessary, we can destroy Qirong's ability to speak forever. Then take our time coming up with an idea." By the time Geze entered the house, Qirong had already licked his hands clean of blood. When he saw him, he called out, "Son! Come here and massage chop your daddy's legs!" Geze did as he was told. He chopped obediently for a while before he asked, "Dad, those people in the corner aren't bound by ropes. How come they still don't dare move?" Qirong perked up at his question. "It's because they're so scared of your daddy that their legs are weak, of course." Geze's eyes and mouth opened wide and round. "You're amazing." Qirong's vanity was greatly satisfied, and he replied, "That's right. Look here, I'll show you just how amazing your daddy is." You see that ball of fire? The moment I give the command, whoosh, and they'll all burn to death. So of course they're afraid of me. And there are two more puny ghosts you need to remember. Guzzo was nodding enthusiastically throughout his father's rant, like a little chick pecking at grain. Chirong continued. One is Hua Cheng. The other has the nickname Blackwater. They're two weak-ass nobodies, two wretches pretending to be great. They got a little lucky, but in reality their titles are hollow. Do you understand what a hollow title is? I'll teach you. It's a metaphor. It means they look like they're powerful on the surface, but when it comes to true strength, they're nowhere near my level. Guzzo looked like he sort of understood, but not quite. Oh. They're just lucky. If I had their luck, I would be 10 times greater than they ever were, Chirong added. Just you wait. This time, your daddy will break through this trial. I'll beat them back black and blue and wipe the smiles off their faces. No one will dare look down on me again. Only I get to look down on people. He was full of fire, swinging his arms as he hollered. Guzzo absolutely did not understand who or what he was talking about, but he still cheered. You can do it, Dad! On the roof, Shilian slapped a hand over his face. Chirong's great speech had rendered him utterly speechless, all too aware of, and quite embarrassed by, the fact that Chirong was his younger cousin. He turned to Hua Cheng. Sunlong, Hua Cheng flashed a fake smile. No need to worry about him, Gaga. He's full of memorable lines. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Throughout history, men all over the world have loved to brag. A breeze could blow the handkerchief of a brothel girl into a man's hand, and he would turn around and say that the most beautiful and renowned of all courtesans had fallen madly in love with him. Holding shoes and wiping benches for the emperor's mistress's uncle's grandson's cousin's mistress would be twisted into an important administrator position at the residence of the royal family, raising his status. Men who didn't brag were a rare species. Men who loved to brag primarily puffed themselves up to women, but bragging to their sons was a close second. Shilian recalled his youth, when his own father frequently spoke of his heroism and greatness in politics, both subtly and blatantly. This was why, when Shilian was young, he deeply believed his father was a noble, valiant ruler whose great name would go down in history. When he eventually discovered that wasn't true, he'd been extremely disillusioned. The letdown was so great that it had sparked his teenage rebellion. As he reflected on this, Shilian shook his head with wry humor. Why would I compare Chirong with my father? Really, how baffling. Maybe they did both love to elevate themselves in front of their sons, but this father's boasting fell within normal parameters. Chirong, on the other hand, had reached a stage of absolute shamelessness and baseless self-righteousness. No wonder that even Blackwater, who always tried to stay under everyone's radar, regarded him with such contempt that he'd find any excuse to beat him up whenever they crossed paths. However, Shilian was still a little puzzled. Why was Chirong cursing so many others right now, but leaving Shilian out? Did he have a change of heart? Shilian could also understand a bit better now why Chirong was dragging his feet on devouring Guzzo. If he bragged to a normal person, or to someone a bit older with more life experience, they might not buy into it. Even if they agreed with him on the surface, it still wouldn't feel sincere, or the response would be overly glib and exaggerated, like Chirong's little ghost minions in the past. But Guzzo's praise was different. Every word came from the bottom of his heart. He genuinely believed that his dad was the most powerful guy in the world. It had probably been a while since Chirong had bragged so heartily. Satisfied at last, he ended the rant. You gotta be good, you hear me? If you don't listen to me, I'll put a ghost fire on you too, he threatened. Sure enough, Guzzo was scared and hastily covered his own head. No, I don't want to wear it. Oh yeah, Dad, he remembered what Hua Cheng and Shilian taught him, and said nervously, Once they have the green fire on their head, you won't be able to take it off them, right? If he had asked, can you take it off them once they have it on, Chirong might not have told the truth, but instead, coached by Hua Cheng and Shilian, he phrased it as an expression of doubt. You won't be able to take it off them, right? Chirong kicked out on the spot and sent the head of one of the stone people flying. Bullshit! If Daddy wants to lock, he'll lock. If he wants to unlock, he'll unlock. Watch. Dad will unlock one to show you. Then he pointed at a farmer and yelled, Dog-fucked Shilian! Shilian had no comment. Neither did Hua Cheng. The ghost fire on top of the farmer's head was extinguished, and he leapt to his feet. However, he didn't run very far before Chirong spat loudly. Another ball of bright green ghost fire spewed from his mouth, which landed and loomed over the top of the farmer's head. Chirong laughed boisterously and patted Guzza's head. "What do you think? Your daddy's powerful, right?" On the roof, Shilian wiped sweat off his face. Huacheng looked cool and aloof, but the tone of his voice was chilling. "I think that trash wants to be thrashed harder." He was cracking his knuckles, so Shilian said hurriedly, "It's fine, it's fine. He was tricked more easily than expected." They had originally taught Guzza many more ways to dig for information, but it seemed they wouldn't need any of them. And no wonder Rong hadn't cursed Shilian earlier. It wasn't that he had a change of heart, but that cursing him had become the unlocking incantation. Rong's feelings for Shilian clearly ran deep. At that point, there was no more reason for the two of them to keep hiding. They immediately smashed through the roof and jumped down. The massive crash made Rong fall off his chair in surprise. "Who's there? Who's there?" And then he saw who it was. "Dog! Dog!" Rong probably wanted to curse at him, but he quickly covered his mouth, realizing that the phrase trying to burst out would free his prisoners. From the corner, one of the farmers said, "I think he just yelled out the incantation, so let's see if we can unlock each other." "Yeah, it's just some cursing, right? Well, I feel kind of bad for that Shilian person. It's not like he's here. It should be fine." Huacheng raised an eyebrow and looked their way. A bead of cold sweat rolled down Yin Yu's head. I suggest you don't say it, whether the person is here or not," Yin Yu said. "The consequences could be even worse than our present situation." Across the room, Rong grabbed Guzza to shield himself and switched up his lines a bit. Dog mounted, Shilian! You're shameless, you're spying, you're conniving." Shilian frowned glumly. What the heck is dog mounted? Rong grew smug again. "Even if you know the incantation, it's useless. Would you curse yourselves? Huacheng, you can't say it either, can you?" Huacheng scowled harder at this. His knuckles cracked a few more times, but Shilian didn't notice. Instead, he was baffled. "Well, sure, it's nothing." Once he recited the incantation several times with no hesitation, as each utterance could only release one person. The hostages now knew that he was the one being cursed in the incantation, and they couldn't help but give him a thumbs up in their hearts, thinking, "He's brave enough to humiliate himself. A real man." However, none of the ghost fire locks atop their heads were unlocked by the attempt. Shilian's face changed slightly, and Rong cackled. "You fell for it, and I'm not the one who's doing the unlocking. The incantation is pointless. You cursed yourself for nothing." A silver butterfly flew past Guzza's eyes. He blinked twice, his eyelids drooped, and he fell asleep in short order. Rong was still cackling to himself when a forceful yank of his sleeve made him whirl around 18 times before crashing into a wall. "Dog-fucked Shilian!" he blurted. After he cursed, the ball of ghost fire atop Yin Yu's head disappeared. Yin Yu immediately leapt to his feet and dodged a good distance away. Rong instantly covered his mouth, knowing he had slipped up. Come, don't worry, don't hold yourself back," Shilian said pleasantly. "Release your true self, keep cursing." He spoke with such serenity as he rolled up his sleeves and grabbed hold of Rong. The ghost didn't fully understand what he meant by that, so he yelled with all he had. "Go ahead, hit me! Even if you beat me to death, I won't say that phrase again." Next to them, Huacheng said with an icy voice, "Perfect. Exactly the way I want it." Rong turned his head. He saw that Huacheng was smiling at him, with an incredibly fake smile, but it still disappeared in the blink of an eye. Huacheng then slammed Rong's head several centimeters into the ground. Huacheng yanked his head out, and Rong roared aloud. "You dare treat me like this? I've had it. I'll burn everyone. We can all die together. Dog Huacheng, burn up." It seemed that Dog Huacheng was the other half of the incantation, meant to initiate incineration. But after he yelled it, there were no cries nor wails from anyone. He opened his eyes in confusion. The farmers were all fine, and they stood watching from the other end of the room. Rong was dumbfounded. "What's going on? How come none of you died? Go die! Who released you?" "You did," Shilian said. He pointed at a silver butterfly on the side, which was broadcasting the exact same roar from earlier. "You cursed yourself for nothing!" That wraith butterfly had recorded everything. It had copied his voice, including the incantation. They could infinitely unlock with that one curse alone. "Leave this plane," Huacheng said coldly. "Sorry, no one's coming with you." With another violent strike, Chirong was bashed underground. After the smoke finally cleared, the farmers all walked up and circled around to see. Can he be fished up? Yin Yu hopped down into the deep crater that Hua Cheng had punched, and he jumped back out a moment later with a green Budao Wong in his hand. Chengzhi, Your Highness, the green ghost Chirong has been collected. The vivid green Budao Wong was baring its teeth and rolling its eyes back. A long tongue spat at its dangled form from its mouth. It looked like it was laughing at someone, but also like it was blustering and ballyhooing. Never heard that word in my life. Ballyhooing with all its might. In any case, it was in extremely poor taste. Even children would toss it aside in contempt if they saw it. Shilian couldn't tell if Chirong's character had influenced the design, or if Huacheng purposely made him this way. Don't give that thing to us. You hang on to it, and keep it far, far away, Huacheng said. Yes, sir, Yin Yu acknowledged. To be honest, Shilian didn't really want to hold the thing either. He picked up Geza from the ground. A few wraith butterflies came flying from a different direction and landed on the back of Huacheng's hand. He cast a glance down, then said, We need to hurry back to the temple. Shilian whirled around. Did something happen there? And that's the end of the chapter.
Random ass fucking Chirong.
So funny. He just shows up. And Xuanji's there. And
yeah, what the fuck is going
and
on?
both of her legs are mangled instead of just the one leg from the anime. It's
like,
funny.
Yeah, sure, why not, man?
Why not, man? Why not? He's so funny. He's such a dad. He's like, I'll eat
Yeah,
you
he's
later.
a
I'm totally
dad,
not
yeah.
enjoying this,
Yeah.
Silly.
I mean, he says, your dad does this.
Yeah. He calls himself Daddy, which is hilarious.
Yeah.